to the second keynote of today, Cultivating Safe Spaces, Enhancing Human Potential in Regenerative Environments, with our guests Philippi, Stephanie Wang, Dr. Joyce Braverman, Jessika Lagarde, and Michelle Harrell. Philippe's background includes years as Condé Nast, reporting for GQ, Vogue, and Vanity Fair. Having lived in Los Angeles for 9 years, he covered Hollywood and tech for GQ magazine. She founded the New Health Club podcast in 2020, dedicated to helping businesses leverage the transformative potential of psychedelics. The New Health Club supports clients by unlocking insights and transforming their businesses with the power of psychedelics. And of course, her podcast is one of the best known in the space, and I think she's interviewed just about every luminary that we've heard of. And currently, they're building a team for psychedelic treatments in Latin America, which I'm just the first time I hear about this, but it's really cool to see also that space being influenced, and they are working with family offices. Stephanie is the founder and CEO of Empathogenics. Stephanie's mission is to elevate human consciousness by bringing more heart-centeredness to the world via greater awareness of our interconnection with each other and nature. Previously, Stephanie was the president of the Alchemist Kitchen and director of Evolver Holdings Corporation, a consciousness lifestyle company. And prior to that, she was a film producer of independent and documentary films, who began a career in finance on Wall Street and in Hong Kong. She's the creator and host of How Things Connect podcast that shares insights and wisdom on healing, empowerment, and regeneration. Dr. Joyce Braverman was born and raised in Mexico, and after completing her medical degree at Hanushek University, she continued her studies in the United States and Israel. She worked as an assistant pediatric surgical oncology, as a consultant for strategic alliances in secondary prevention of childhood cancer, and as the director of medical research at Med Intelligence, an Israeli-based startup focused on personalized medicine research. Dr. Braverman became certified in mind-body medicine as Ayurvedic yoga and Ayurvedic yoga massage, experiences that inspired her to adopt a more holistic approach to healing. This path led her to continue her studies at CIIS, the California Institute of Integral Studies, in psychedelic therapies and research. Her journey continues as she strives to integrate her passion for the use of psychedelic medicines in the medical field. She currently is studying functional medicine, and one of her main interests is in psychoneuroimmunology. Michelle Harrell is a state-licensed psilocybin facilitator who specializes in areas such as anxiety and depression management, grief and trauma processing, PTSD, creative enhancement, heart opening, and mystical expansion. Michelle enjoyed a successful international career in human resources and information technology, where she specialized in supporting change programs. Her passion for navigating life transitions led her to explore deeper avenues of healing. And in 2023, when Oregon launched the country's first legal psilocybin treatment program, this was the perfect time for Michelle's career shift. Now, through Purple City Retreats, she merges her love for travel, wellness, and plant medicine to create a luxurious yurt, a wellness retreat experience, where clients can embark on their own healing journeys. And finally, also joining me here from the Netherlands, Jessika Lagarde. She's originally from Brazil and now based in Amsterdam. She's a trauma-informed plant medicine facilitator, microdosing coach, educator, and Woman on Psychedelics co-founder. Jess's work is focused on the creation of spaces that amplify avenues for self-expression, self-acceptance, and self-awareness. Women on Psychedelics is an educational platform and event organizer committed to connection and community, fostering a culture of holistic healing and authentic self-expression for empowered female autonomy. All of Jessika's work is informed by taking action in a way that serves the earth and our collective human collective, in hopes of mobilizing inner healing towards outer action. All right, this is it for my introduction. And I think we don't have per se a moderator for this panel, but maybe Anne, I know you're really experienced with this, so I'll give you the word first, and I'll drop off camera and give you guys the floor.
Okay. Can you guys hear me now? Is it okay? Yeah. I see you. Okay. Are we gonna be shown in these quadrants? Okay, I'm not sure, but I'm super excited to be on this panel here because I know every single one of you, but not personally. I think Jessika, we once met, but so we have a very interesting title for this, for this panel, and I would love to hear what you think about sacred or like safe spaces. And I want to say before maybe we start a conversation, what I think about recently is about safe spaces. My urge recently is way more to kind of leave almost like safe spaces and just become more like, yeah, kind of more kind of moving towards a bigger audience or trying to connect with a context that is more actually, let's call it mainstream, and kind of be as open as possible. So I kind of found this expression safe spaces. I felt like I haven't heard this in quite a long time. So, but I'm always curious what it means for other people. So I would be interested what comes to mind if you hear that expression, and what does it mean for you in the context of psychedelics, maybe?
I'll start.
There you are. Okay.
I'm so excited to be here and join you guys. Yeah, so for me, when I first heard that term and they asked if I'd like to talk on this panel, what it means to me, a safe space, is somewhere that anyone can feel their authentic self and express themselves fully without fear of judgment, without fear of harm. And so, yeah, in the psychedelic space, anything that can, create that sense of awe in me or wonder, and expand possibilities in my own, brain and mind, and shift my perspective. That's where I think design can really play a role in helping folks that are, experimenting with psychedelics to really, broaden their vision, broaden their perspective for whatever intention they're coming forward with. But that's what safe spaces mean to me. I don't know. I'm curious to hear what you guys all think.
I'll go. Thank you, Michelle. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks to Alexandra, and thank you, Flores, and so happy to meet all of you. I actually only know Anne directly.
Yes, exactly. We know each other too.
And I was thinking the same thing when I heard cultivating safe spaces. I think two words came to mind and come to mind. One is feeling safe enough to be completely authentic and be oneself, and also feeling safe enough to be vulnerable. And thinking a little bit deeper into that, I would take it one step more, because safe spaces and being authentic and being vulnerable means we're allowing ourselves to be seen. And I think that so much of healing, any kind of healing, takes place when we allow that, and we actually form a connection in doing that, a deeper connection with ourselves, because oftentimes we disassociate from our own, trauma and wounds and all of it. And it takes a lot of courage and strength to come to that, a time and place where one can actually do that and be present with all these suppressed emotions, and to be able to face a lot of maybe what one has been suppressing or rejecting. And this, of course, plant medicine comes in and psychedelics come in beautifully with that, because it really is a wonderful tool to help us connect in such a deeper way with ourselves, with each other, and our environment. And it is actually in our connection with ourselves, and then therefore the ability to connect with someone else. And in that relational space, speaking of safe spaces, that also, safe spaces to me also means, of course, is it safe enough to connect? Is it safe enough to be seen? And so there's I think a huge relational aspect, which I think in itself is another form of healing. And I mean, it's interesting, psychedelics design, because how can we then create not just like, oh, let's come together and do some psychedelics together, but how especially post that experience when we've all had such an incredible non-dual experience in that moment, in that journey, in that ceremony, and how do we integrate it into life post that? And I think that safe space needs to, of course, extend into when we're not on medicine, when we're not taking psychedelics, but to be able to then recognize and recognize what we learn from our psychedelic experiences, and then integrate and create from there. And I feel like, sometimes that side gets a little bit dropped is the wrong word, but I think we can do more on that side of things.
Maybe I can go next. I hope you all can hear me.
Yeah, very well.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting, Enda, to mention that, because also for me, the safe spaces has been something that has shifted so much during the past years, and even like my own meaning and attribution to it. I don't even know if I would say safe spaces actually exist, like what we can try to create, especially when we are doing this work with psychedelics, might be somewhat of safe enough spaces, and this can look different for each person you are working with. And that being said as well, it's something that starts even before the space is created, right? Like everything around the process of preparation and your own journey as a facilitator that is bringing those space to other people that are going to have such experiences. So yeah, I feel overall like resonate a lot with what Michelle and Stephanie said about like having spaces in which people can feel that they can express the most authentic side of themselves, that they can be vulnerable and know that they're going to be held. And yeah, safe enough to lean into this type of experiences, even in group contexts, and most of the times also in different countries, and like there's so many factors and nuances I can put in there that can influence in it. So just to pick a little bit on that, it's a concept that I feel like I'm still learning and exploring for myself and for the work that I do in this space, on how that can look like and how different that can look like for different people. Yeah.
I think I go next. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Very well.
Thank you so much for this space, and I deeply admire all of you. Thank you for your work. So I'm really proud of being here with all of you. For me, cultivating a safe space means so much. I think as facilitators or doctors or therapists or whoever is holding space, we have the responsibility to create an environment, right? That it's physically, emotionally, or socially safe, so people feel supported, respected, and seen. And for me, cultivating a safe space means to foster the sense of trust and inclusion that will allow that individual to feel secure and valued during the process. And it always starts with a lot of respect. And respect for me means to be well trained, to read about the subject, to study, to give time and space to really dedicate your life and soul and mission and purpose to actually bring these tools to people, right? Like whatever that means. Sometimes for some people it means to study a lot, for people means to follow an indigenous path of the sacred medicine. For other people means just to feel safe enough to express their own spirituality and not to have any symbolism around this space. For some people means to have enough medical measurements, to do before the session or the therapeutic space in order for them to feel safe. So whatever that means for each person, I think we need to open up the conversation. What does that mean for the person who's taking the medicine or the community that's taking the medicine to feel safe? And just to open the conversation and the communication instead of like thinking we know what is a safe space for us, right? Because it means something different for each of us. So for me, it means that, and to be as professional as possible as we can.
I mean, I have a question that I'm really thinking about to all of you in the last, let's say, months, because I mean, things come to the surface in the celebrity world now that, kind of showcase abuse that certain people, celebrities, did to other people when they were sometimes very young. And it takes quite just a short time now to people come forward who were the abused people and say like, well, no, this guy, I remember him. I'm not going to say enough names, but just I think everybody knows what we talk about in general. So, and I find it very interesting that the public now becomes also weirdly a safe place. If I think about the media 10 years ago, it was a very different situation. And I find it sometimes very interesting how fast the media, like the so-called, what is the New York Times called? Like basically the traditional media, not social media, but also social media is kind of very fast on the side of people who seem to be have been abused, although there's no proof yet. And for some reason, I feel this is very interesting because, again, like this wasn't the case 10 years ago. And I wonder if this is an impression that you guys also have, that with kind of the emergence of a new consciousness, people are faster able to look into kind of how abuse actually looks like, so that it can come faster to the surface, and it can be also called that suddenly. Because that was not the case 10, 15 years ago. If you wrote an article, even in a celebrity context, it would be like, there's something happened, but it was kind of very fast off the table. But actually the naming what actually happened is becoming suddenly so present. And I wonder if this is something that you guys also observe, which actually can connect also to the psychedelic world, because more people can maybe say easier, well, I feel like my impression is I had experienced abuse, but I never was able to maybe say this. Or is this just my media perception of things?
I think that it's happening more and more. I think it's a very dangerous space because sometimes when people are having these experiences, they tend to project like it's not always the real situation. So it's a very risky space where we have to be as professional as possible. And part of it is doing these therapies legal so we can create communities, as Rosalind Watts, I don't know if you know her, but she talks a lot about the pollination model, which means, we have to build communities and see each other and talk between therapists, what's going on in the space and how can we improve, because we are allowed as therapists or medical doctors to make mistakes around our experiences. But we have to have core values and principles and to put the patient, always in the position of a safe space. And of course, we have to talk about these stories of abuse so we don't repeat that, and we know how to actually recognize who is abusing, like who has no, doesn't have the credentials. Like how I end up this with a question, but how can we recognize these people who are abusing their position of power, or they are actually, in trouble and they are doing like other stuff like sexual abuse or just doing that? How can we become stronger as professionals to recognize these people? And there has to be a way, for sure, but it's becoming more and more open, like these subjects, for sure.
Yeah, if I can jump in there as well. I don't feel like as if things are more prevalent today, but there is much more awareness and education and vocabulary that people are cultivating around these topics, or even, more awareness when it comes to when people experience harm. And I feel overall the psychedelic space really lacks any sort of system of accountability process or a space, where people can go to report that. Also, it's such a global space. I find it very difficult to even grasp how that could even look like, a model like that. But I feel, I second what Dr. Joyce said. That really resonates with me. I do sense that we need better systems of support more than anything else. We need to have people and structures in place that people can feel safer to speak up, or even any sort of a better ethic framework that we can work with if we are doing facilitation for this type of work. And I think a very important thing that Joyce said that really speaks to me as well is, as practitioners, having our own village of care and support system of people, whether they are teachers, mentors, or supervisors, that we can go to in case something happens. Because at the end of the day, we are humans, and if we are working with people in such vulnerable states, it doesn't matter how much work you have done in yourself. There might be times that something might come up, some sort of transference, countertransference that might come up in the process. And that's okay, that happens. But how do you repair? What are the systems that you have for that? And I feel that's where we are missing so much there's so much work to be done, I would say.
But I mean, like, a lot of you are coming from the kind of therapist, like guide perspective. So, and I mean, I wonder, like, because there's this one, let's say, element of the coming society that we're going to live in, that people are creating their own communities to live in, as opposed to what the state tells them. This is the main conflict we actually have on a global level right now. So what is government? What does government mean? Can government make decisions for our health, for our wars, and all of this? So this is mainly, I think, like in every country in the world right now, a little bit the question. So, and so let's say something what you mentioned, what Rosalind Watts is doing, like creating our own communities, like so people can heal in their, let's say, self-created community. So is this something you see happening more and more, that people actually almost, like, to say drastically, detach from a state healthcare system, because it's no longer, I mean, we have to, the big case now with what happened in New York, like somebody was apparently hyper aggressive against a classic healthcare system. So do you guys feel, or do you observe this, that people create their own healing world? Because I have a very different perspective than you guys, but this is something I feel it's kind of happening since a while, but it's becoming stronger now in a way.
I feel that a lot of people are finally realizing that a lot of the systems that we have in place are not actually working for us. I feel like that's the most straightforward way of saying that. And that actually there's a lot in the systems that are in place that are actually harmful towards us. So this comes from many, many years of people feeling oppressed or feeling like they're not being taken care of or they are not being heard. And when you go back to communities in smaller scale, you can actually create that. And you can actually give that to each other. And I feel like just so in the context you gave of like the healthcare system is something interesting. This has been so present for me recently because I have gone through the past 2 years in conventional healthcare system trying to get a diagnosis for endometriosis, which is a condition that a lot of women really suffer from it, and that the healthcare system does not have good means to address. And I have actually been finding a lot of support in my own community and in alternative healing for it. So it's very interesting that you brought that up. Like, it's very present for me right now.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually love.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I love this question and this subject because it's exactly my field. You know, I'm very inspired by. I'm studying right now functional medicine, and I'm also very inspired by Neri Oxman with her philosophy of material ecology. And in general, you know, as Mark Hyman, a very incredible figure of functional medicine, says, we need to stop masking the symptoms. We need to start restoring balance in the body, and this is what it's making a regenerative system. I think Western medicine is so sick by the patriarchal system. So we are actually having a new way of being how health works, which means to regenerate health. And that means taking ownership and responsibility for your own health and repairing all your living systems inside of you. And this is what psychedelics are doing. They are bringing the power back to the physical and biological intuition. And at the same time, they are repairing relationships and communities. And I think people are stopping to believe in the systems that we had for the last years. And this started when COVID started. You know, we completely lost trust in the system. So people are just looking for new ways. And this is a new program that it's entering humanity, and it's getting so strong because it works. So that's my opinion in that. And I believe it's going to become stronger and stronger.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, and I love this conversation. So thank you, Anne, for the question. What I've found in my work also is that, and bringing it back to safe spaces, is that many of my clients who seek out this treatment express to me afterwards that they've not had an experience where space is just held for them without interference, without trying to fix it for them, without trying to diagnose it, give them an option to fix it, right? Which is what often our healthcare, I call it sick care system, gives us, right? You go see your general practitioner, you have 10 minutes with them. They often want to just diagnose you quickly and write a script and send you on your way. So I think a lot of us are, feeling like we're not heard, feeling like this, that's not the problem, or that's only a piece of the problem. And so I think what we do with art in these spaces, in these psychedelic spaces, is so needed right now globally, because so many people just need to feel seen and feel heard. And I think that's a big part of what we do with psychedelics, is we create these safe spaces where people can actually not run from what's happening, but actually move towards it, with the intention of trying to really connect with self, with source, and again, that intuition piece, I think, is at the forefront of what's happening right now for a lot of people. And I think you said it so well, Jessika, that many of us are waking up to the fact that these systems were designed to actually keep us in these systems. and not help us to break free from them. And I think that's really exciting in these spaces. And that's why I wanted to be part of this movement. So thank you for the conversation.
I could not agree more. And just self-directed healing in itself. I mean, I look back now when people started getting into organic food. It's like, what's that, right? And that was like, oh, it was, this is a long time ago, but and then gradually, into, all right, I don't want to take pharmaceuticals anymore. So let's go back to herbalism. Let's go back to the plants. Let's see what else there is. And then, of course, to psychedelics, which is, of course, another form of freeing ourselves from those systems, whether it's mental, emotional, or actually structural or physical. And so I think going back to what you started with, Anne, in the very beginning about the media, I mean, look what's happened. Look what's happened now. I mean, we cannot trust any of the media because blatantly you can see who is actually controlling. There is one narrative that's being controlled, right? And I think since COVID, absolutely, it's kind of like the jig is up. It's like suddenly maybe people who were still not seeing that, they were still in the matrix. It's like, whoa, and I think these years since then, since COVID, are just accelerating this this phenomenon. And that's what makes it so exciting right now for all of us, because we are already, I mean, all of us are in alternative spaces. We already have kind of not rejected, but we've already kind of said, okay, there's more to life, healing, whatever, than just what's already there. So I think that a big part of it absolutely is community. But I will also say that just to kind of tie it all together, really bringing in the feminine and bringing that quality, because community, coming together, collaboration, and also holding space for others. It's a very feminine. I'm not saying, when I say feminine, I don't mean like women. I mean, really
sure.
finding, accessing that feminine principle within each of us, intuition, all of it. It's like, let's create those structures I mean, what is more regenerative than actually tapping into creation and that creation energy and intuition and love, and all of that is so much part of the feminine principle of divine feminine. And there is a balance that has been there has been an imbalance, I should say, for such a long time. And I think we're seeing, of course, in history and everything, you see the pendulum swinging back, after being extremely one way. And that's what also makes it so exciting. But I do believe that, I really do believe that especially, women need to step up, and all of us, and for men to really connect to that part within them as well, and any genders in between. But really the feminine principle has to come out and establish itself more. And even though we all innately know that, I think that the structures that we are still kind of trying to figure out, they still are very much, because we've been since we've been alive, like we've been in a patriarchal structure, right? So what does that look like? What does it look like when we're respecting 100% of life? Like, what does it look? And so, of course, there's, a lot of movements that are exploring this. But I just think we can definitely double, triple tap on that.
But I mean, I have to say, it makes me more, what happens now, even more leaving this safe space and this community thing. I mean, I feel like now I'm really ready, but my aim is more to enter a bigger public or a bigger audience more than ever, basically. And actually, that's why we decided to open a foundation in the US now, no longer in Europe, because everything is so slow in Europe. And and I feel like now is also, for me personally, a new time to almost like leave certain community, not like leave them behind, but just to go basically the other direction, to take part in the bigger picture as much as possible. So, and but of course, I'm doing a different thing than I'm not a facilitator, I'm not a scientist. I'm basically a communicator to bring psychedelics into different contexts. But I've never felt more kind of passionate about like leaving the village behind and just go into as much as possible bigger pictures. So is this also something that you feel, you guys, or you feel the same way?
Yes. Absolutely. And I mean, it's why I started my company. It's a for-profit commercial company. We make Kana supplements. And at the same time, we are bridging like how do we respect this plant medicine? In this case, it's Kana, which is psychoactive, not necessarily psychedelic, but it's a beautiful plant that just holds amazing space for people to process all of their, whatever's going on inside them. And it's an amazing, as a natural serotonin reuptake inhibitor as well, and a mood lifter, and all of that, and nootropic. But the point is that, I felt the same way. I wanted to bust out of that echo chamber a little bit. And of course, one can still, you can still go to do plant medicine work and all of that. But how do we take now, since the psychedelics renaissance has kind of run its course for a number of years now, how do we take that and translate it into something that people can access? Like people who may never want to go a full-on psychedelic journey, but that wisdom that's there, how can we access that? So how can we help people access that? And I think that, one aspect we didn't discuss is the indigenous wisdom behind a lot of these practices. And I think that, we focus a lot on molecules and all of that with psychedelics. And yes, there's a massive spiritual aspect as well, but I think we can really learn a lot from indigenous cultures who use plant medicines, who use psychedelics, who have had that as part of their culture. And it's not just about paying respect to that, but it's also like, wait a minute, we've had thousands of years with these medicines. So, we have a cumulative sort of treasure trove, a deep, deep knowledge base of how to work with these medicines and how to integrate them in a way that's healthy, that's sustainable, that can have long-term impact, and that also can minimize harm, right? So I feel like that's an area that we also haven't tapped into as much as we could, because again, we live in modern societies and we tend to look at that as something anachronistic maybe, but I do believe that there's a lot there that we can bring back from our ancestors, and to really inform how to create these safe spaces, let me just say, like revolutionary spaces where we're breaking molds and getting out of old paradigms and being free and feeling free to do so, and feeling like emboldened and say, all right, let's do this together.
But for example, just let me say this quickly to the foundation, because I'm opening this to create content which I can't monetize on Meta. So, and that to me has become like such an interesting observation, that you basically, if you think it through, you would need a psychedelic Facebook actually, because it would not be, until we let's wait another 5 years until Meta might be okay with some posts like on, WhatsApp, Instagram, we all know it. So, and everybody still has this problem basically. But for example, meaning you can't go a full-on creator monetizing career, let's say, with psychedelics, because you will be shadow banned and eventually your account is gone, although you spend maybe thousands, millions of, I don't know, whoever, dollars. So I find this more and more interesting. How can we create powerful systems in a really kind of, let's say, bigger picture or bigger society? And this actually, if I this would be my goal for the next, I don't know, 5 years, to create a psychedelic Facebook and to go in this direction. So to create almost like not a competitor to Meta, but a system that is as equally powerful as Meta. So I feel this is the time now to think about these things also. So
Yeah.
so,
I love that. I know we have very little time,
we
so
can all be on it and we don't have no repercussions.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to point out something, because when I was in medical school and also working in the hospitals, I knew something was wrong. But, you know, I was deeply embedded in the patriarchal system, and I couldn't see beyond that. And the only ones who were giving me the lead were the indigenous people. You know, they have been carrying this wisdom for thousands of years beyond the colonialism, capitalism, like they have lost their lives doing this. So I just want to put out there not to forget the reciprocity that they teach us. You know, take what you need and give back the rest.
Yeah.
And back to the community, give back to earth, you know, like to have these models that will nourish the full system, so we can actually repair something, because they've been, like, for me, they are the ones that we need to follow, but we also need to bridge and design something new, because there's so much value too in technology and all these new things that are coming out. So I just
But
wanted
that's
to
why they can be no longer criminals, you know, like so-called. That's to me that becomes so obvious in the last years, that basically who is still criminalized and who is not. So it is kind of and you know, and this is of course I'm just an assumption that I guess, for example, Meta has a lot of advertising clients who would say, well, let's not look into these psychedelic posts. So we don't want this. So can you please do something about it? So, and I find I mean, I always have to more and more to think about this Michael Pollan book, This Is Your Mind on Plants, where it's becoming so blatantly obvious that this is, you know, this needs to fall away. But until it falls away completely, you already, I think it's important to build powerful structures that then will be available to really, you know, like you say, present indigenous cultures in a way that they are not like neither belittled nor criminalized, basically.
Yeah, and we really need to support each other, you know. It's very simple, but liking each other's posts, you know, like just commenting, making each other like stronger and stronger, because people are very strong when we get together. So I think that's very, very important.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you so much for the contributions to this conversation. And we have a few questions already. And I saw the last panel, like people really warming up at the end. So maybe we'll have to answer a few questions just by text at the end. But we have about 10 minutes to answer the questions. And I would say anyone who feels called to answer them, please go ahead. We'll start with the first question from Stella, I hope. What can everybody do to support a new way of health system?
I'll take that, and I'm going to give a real simple answer. This is what I tell a lot of my clients. Tell your story. Share your story of healing. I think when our stories are heard, and even if it's only with a very trusted small circle, because many of my clients are, you know, professionals, they're worried about putting out in public that they're doing psychedelics for fear of repercussion in their careers or their communities. And so I often, you know, just give the advice, share with that one person that you trust, that you feel, you know, that your story could resonate with, because it's through our stories of healing and transformation. And when others see that we're, you know, getting better or doing things differently or what have you, they want to know more. That curiosity is piqued, and people, you know, start to see in action what we are talking about here in this whole day. They start to really, you know, pay attention and want to know more. And so that's my big advice. Tell your story. And build the communities that you want to be in.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. So we have a question from the Montreal Mushroom Festival. There's a bit of an introduction, so I encourage you to read that, but let me just jump into the question immediately. How can we, as lay people, navigate this landscape to make well-informed choices about our health? Much love and gratitude.
Is the question more like what kind of information you would like to have, or like?
Yeah, and if I maybe just to give a bit of the context around it, it's really around that censorship that is happening for advocates of entheogens and sacred medicines. Uh, and then they gave a compliment on your new Facebook, competitor to
I mean,
Facebook. So really in that context of like if things are being censored more and more, and I see also April Pride saying that Meta will even restrict more information around tracking the purchase, tracking add to cart for ads if you're more in this health and wellness space. So how can people still, as lay people, get the information they need?
I mean, I think in the meantime, there are some, I mean, also, Flores, you have a great outlet of information because you're also in the Netherlands. It's probably a different thing also. But I feel like, I mean, my feeling is that there are more and more also kind of, let's say, established products out there. Like, I mean, Michael Pollan is obviously one of them who has a couple of books about it. And more people, also journalists working for other media, coming out and writing books. So I think that my feeling is like, I don't know, like 40% more books than a couple of years ago still. And I mean, I think also like a lot of classic media now doing, I think New York Times does most of that stuff, but I feel like it's coming more also into the classic media context like Guardian and New York Times, where actually quite considerate writers are taking on the topic. And I mean, my feeling is the only time when somebody gets into a negative narrative is when kind of a celebrity has experienced something like, or like the Matthew Perry case, like, you know, where it was like, oh, ketamine is like, this is all bad and it's all opioids. So, but I mean, I think if you really follow also certain authors, like Shayla Law, for example, is a very good author, I think, around this. Then Mata, what's his last name? Mata from England.
Usha, maybe?
Yeah, he writes very well. Then, of course, Josh Hartman has a great newsletter. So, I mean, I think in the meantime, there is something coming that is also very legit information. It's just that, you know, I have had this a couple of times that you need to say names of people who publish this already, or like authors, and that is still kind of something you need to do, I think. But I think if you have your 4 or 5 authors together, you can get quite a good input or insight, I think. You don't need to go down rabbit holes and crazy mushroom Instagram accounts, kind of. So that would be my recommendation, to look for writers who actually lead us. And Madison Margolin is also a great writer for this kind of.
Yeah, thank you. And it kind of maybe also speaks to, taking a bit of the power out of the algorithms and really curating things yourself. And maybe like the RSS feed will make a comeback.
What?
Uh, the RSS feed, so that you
the RSS feed,
see everything.
Yeah, sure.
So April talked about in her question around Meta restricting health and wellness brands from using key event tracking like purchase and add to cart from ads. And how do you see this impact on sharing harm reduction practices, tools, and gatherings?
I mean, I feel like it's the same thing. Like there are already harm reduction outlets, like Joshua White's company, how's it called again? Fireside Project. This is a very good hotline where you can just call and ask questions around your experience. even while you're on the experience, which is very interesting. Then there's Zendo Project, a couple of others. But again, I think it's coming out of this community to create tools and offerings, how to prevent yourself from a harm situation. So, but I mean, I don't see anything like this on Facebook. I mean, our account was like closed 5 times there, and it's also, my recommendation would be to not post anything on Facebook in that context anymore. So, I mean, Instagram there's certain opportunities, but I think Facebook per se is something that is almost like dangerous for the existence of what you're doing, kind of. So, but Fireside Project here would be my recommendation for harm reduction.
Yeah, maybe Michelle, like, what's your perspective on this in terms of being able to inform people, or maybe see that there's less, maybe it's just Meta, maybe it's other platform that's sort of less tracking you, maybe get less feedback from what people are looking for. How do you work with that?
Well, if I'm honest, I'm still so small that I don't think I'm not on anyone's radar. So I mean, I am posting things on both my social media accounts. LinkedIn, I find, is also a more welcoming platform for this type of conversation, at least in this type of community. In regards to like the actual selling of, I do steer clear of that on social media. I do that all, via other systems on the back end. But it is tricky. I mean, and I think, states like Oregon and Colorado who are standing up legal programs, there are a lot of challenges for us from a business lens and from a risk lens in these spaces. But I think so many of us that are, have dove in head first, are just we see so many benefits to being able to serve and meet our clients where they're at. A lot of mainstream folks who maybe aren't involved in these psychedelic communities and spaces are not following, these newsletters, but are just really desperate for something to help them get out of bed every day. We have to meet them where they are. And I think that, coming back to safe spaces again, not everybody is going to be found in those communities. And so unfortunately, we do have to work within the constraints of these established systems like Meta. And I will keep posting until I can't anymore. But yeah, I know it's a real risk. I know I've seen several folks have their sites shut down, which is devastating when you're a small business. Yeah, it is. So yeah, I would love to see a psychedelic Meta. So I'll definitely sign up for that.
All right. Thank you all so much for your participation and also for answering the questions here. I do see we have 3 more open questions. And I think the second question, I would love to just get you all to type an answer there, because the question there is, in the last 24 months, what has given you the most hope for the future of psychedelics and psychotherapy? So I'd love to see your answers there, and people can read that later on. We'll now have a 5-minute break, and then we'll be back for the next panel. So we'll see everyone again in 5 minutes.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.